On page 266 in your reading workbook, we're going to look at 3 types of figurative language. It says, writers often use figurative language to help us imagine familiar things and events in new and sometimes strange ways. A simile uses the words like or as to compare two things that are not alike. A metaphor also compares two things but does not use like or as. Personification gives human qualities to non-living things. Writers often use figurative language to produce a mood or feeling. As you read this poem, think about how its figurative language helps you imagine familiar things and events in new ways. Also, think about how the poem might be making you feel. So we're going to read the poem, and then we will look at the next page about some things that we read. We'll identify the type of figurative language that it is and what that figurative language actually means. So the name of the poem is called The Tree Bats. The tree bats away like fruit with wings. From the branches of a tall old tree, prisoners of light throughout the day, till nightfall comes to set them free. The sun goes down, the sleepers stir, to the gentle voice of Mother Night. Then the tree lets go its fluttering fruit, a dark whirlwind of sudden flight. Did you see any similes, metaphors, or personification in there? Hopefully you did. So we will look at page 267. The first one is actually done for us. The tree bats sway like fruit with wings. It's comparing tree bats to fruit using the word like. So that is a simile to compare the bats to fruit. It really means the tree bats are hanging upside down because they're swaying. So they're not flying, they're swaying and attached to the tree, hanging upside down. The next clue, prisoners of light throughout the day. It's personification because the light is a jailer. The bats are prisoners. Prisoners of light. So the bats are being the prisoners of the light. Can light really be a jailer and bats really be in prison? No, they cannot. What does that mean? Why is the author using this personification? What is he trying to show us? Well, he's trying to show us that bats only come out at night. Our next one, the gentle voice of Mother Nature. It's saying Mother Nature has a gentle voice. What is that an example of? That's an example of personification. The sounds of night are like mother talking. No, they can't. The sounds of night can't talk. All right, what does this actually mean? The sounds of night wake up the bats. So like if your mom was talking at night and it would wake you up. So the sounds of Mother Nature at night wake up the bats. There was one more example. It was actually the last sentence. A dark whirlwind of sudden flight. What is that an example of? That is an example of a metaphor. It's comparing the bat's flight like a whirlwind. A dark whirlwind of sudden flight. Those are the bats flying, and they're saying it's like a whirlwind. What does it actually mean? It means that the bats take off quickly and fly away. A whirlwind is quick, so they take off quickly and they fly away. Moving on to page 268. So it says, when you reread the poem, underline any figurative language the poet uses to describe the rain. So we're going to underline the figurative language he uses to describe the rain, and then we're going to put that on the chart on the next page. Tell what type of figurative language it is and what it means, just like we did on the previous page. But we're going to underline it first in the passage, or in the poem. From Rain in Summer. How beautiful is the rain after the dust and heat. In the broad and fiery street, in the narrow lane, how beautiful is the rain. How it clatters along the roofs like the tramp of hoofs. How it gushes and struggles out from the throat of the overflowing spout. So, like the tramp of hooves, That's figurative language. Struggles out from the throat of the overflowing spout. That's another figurative language. Across the window pane it pours and pours, and swift and wide with a muddy tide, like a river down the gutter roars. The rain, the welcome rain. Underline the last two sentences, or last two. Those really aren't sentences. It's really one sentence in that third stanza. The sick man from his chamber looks at the twisted brooks. He can feel the cool breath of each little pool. His fevered brain grows calm again, and he breathes a blessing on the rain. So we're going to underline, he can feel the cool breath of each little pool. So we're going to use what we underlined to fill in the table on page 469. So the first one is partially done for us. It was in the second stanza, how it clatters along the roofs like the tramp of the hoofs. What type of figurative language is that? Uses the word like to compare the rain to hooves. That is a simile. Simile is comparing the sound of the rain to the hooves. What does that mean? It just means the rain is loud when it's hitting the roof. Maybe it sounds like Santa's reindeers prancing and pawing on the roof. Okay, it just means the rain is very loud. Now, because let me go back to here for just a second. So this one that we just copied and this one down here are both similes. Since both these are similes, we're not going to use this example because I want to use an example of a metaphor and of personification. So the next one we're going to do is this right here. How it gushes and struggles from the throat of the overflowing spout. So that is an example of a metaphor because it's comparing the water to a creature escaping another creature's throat. So the rain's gushing out, and it says, from the throat of an overwhelming spout. Now, it's not really a throat, it's a spout. I could have even understood if you would have called this personification because it's saying the spout is kind of like a throat. And so that would be giving human-like characteristics to the spout. So if you said that, I could agree with you there as well. It just means that the rainwater is moving powerfully through the spout. And then the last one in the last stanza, he can feel the cool breath of each little pool. That is personification because the pools of the rainwater can't really breathe. You're making the pools have breath, so it's personification, giving human-like characteristics to something that is not human. What does it actually mean? It means that the rainwater settles into small, cool, calm pools. Finally, on page 272, it says, explain how the figurative language shows the change in the rain over time. Use examples to support your response. So the poet uses figurative language to show us that the rain first moves powerfully, but then slows and stops. First, he says the sound of the rain is like the tramp of the hooves. That's how it's powerful. It tells us how hard the rain is falling and striking the roof. He then says that it struggles out from the throat of the overflowing spout. That's a metaphor that's comparing the water's movement to an animal coming out of to the movement of an animal coming out of another animal's throat. But it's showing the water's energy, how powerful that water is coming out of the spout. Now, in contrast to those first two types of figurative language where we're seeing how powerful the water is, the last stanza, the rainwater has stopped moving. It's in little pools, each producing a gentle, calming, cool breath as an example of personification. So now everything has slowed down and is a lot calmer. The rain is obviously over now. If you have any questions on similes, metaphors, or personification, please email me.